Let me put you on game to a different way of thinking. Black King, empower the youth to live the truth, got big dreams. Black King, all of my brothers set up for each other, that's how we know we. Black King, bringing more unity to community, yeah. Black King.
Kings, queens, my royal family, my name is Walter Watts, and welcome to another episode of King's Hour. And like always, I got my kings with me. Talk to me.
What's good? What's good? Murder Moose in the building.
JoJo's in here. What's good?
That's right. Man, it's always a pleasure to have you guys on here, man. I appreciate you guys getting on here, man, seeing your guys' face. I'm excited for this episode, too.
Yes, sir.
That's right. So no further ado, let's get into it. Now, the topic for today is evolve or die. Now, that sounds like a lot. You may even hear it and be like, oh, okay, it's not that serious. Or maybe the Kings are being a little dramatic today. But shoot, if you think about it, this is real. The only thing in life that is constant is change. And as kings, we have to learn to always evolve. Because if we pay attention to our history, when we don't evolve, when I'm thinking about kings, that's when you lose your fortress. That's when you lose your capability to be able to protect your foundation. So evolving in life is key on every aspect. And yes, we're talking about kings, but we can use this in everyday life. So for example, although you may not lose your fortress, but whatever you're trying to build, it can be lost. So like I said, example could be businesses. If you think about a Blockbuster, if you think about BlackBerry, Kodak, even MySpace, these are booming companies that were thriving when they were hot. But I believe that they just missed the boat and weren't able to evolve to the rapid change that we are always successful, that we're always seeing. So as a king in your everyday life, understand that you always have to make sure that you're evolving and paying attention to the times. So on this episode, I want to dive in and talk to the kings and make sure that we're doing just that. And we don't end up like the BlackBerry or the Blockbuster. We're paying attention and we're evolving and making sure that our awareness is up. So talk to me, Mook, starting with you, man. Give me something that you think that right now in your life that you're paying attention to, that you're seeing that a constant change right now. Something simple.
The people that and the energy that they exhaust in those people, I have to pay attention to. Again, I'm reading this book right now. We talked about it. It's that the 50s book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. And he talks about, are you depositing or doing more withdrawing from my life? And being very, very cognizant of that, because evolving is just a way of life, and no matter what, change is going to come. But it's crazy how resistant we are throughout life. We always talk about that comfort zone and the uncomfortable places to go, and how growth is on the other side of comfort. But for some reason, we want to stay in that box. That's the story of evolution, really,
Absolutely.
really, to me, in all regards. There's so many different tangents you can go when you think about evolution and how it lays in our lives. But yeah, man, it's a thing. It's a real thing that I still am trying to pinpoint areas where I can't evolve every day.
And that's why I throw it at you, because when you talk about evolution and personal evolution, evolving, you can go so many different ways. So I love how you bring up just the people around you taking your energy. Even you, JoJo, what's something that you notice about things that are evolving around you, or something that's evolving in you?
For me, mine is similar to Mook's. These last few years, I've been super conscious about who I spend my time with, and I always tell my wife, I'm like, like a video game, right? Like Tekken or Mortal Kombat, you have an energy bar. You know what I'm saying? And you got 10 little bricks of energy. And it's like, if I sit there and have this conversation with you, boom, boom, that's 2. I go to work, boom, 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 that's 3. Yeah. I get home, or I'm in traffic, boom, boom, that's another 2. By the time I get home, You know, I got 3 left for my family and the people that matter. You know what I'm saying? 3
Yeah.
bars left to really give them my all. And for me, that wasn't enough. You know what I'm saying? People around me were sucking the life out of me. I was letting the job I was at suck the life out of me. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm super conscious about that, and I made a pivot. You know, consciously, intentionally made a pivot. It's like, yo, this is where my focus is going to go. This is what my priority is going to be. Because if I continue down that road and not change with what was going on around me, it's like we said, it's easily just to keep going with that and keep just letting it suck the life out of you. But one thing it takes, though, I was just thinking while Mook was talking, is like you have to be really like, you have to have a level of self-awareness. You know, you have to be. Some people don't like to sit down and be in their thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Some people don't like to sit down and really like think. Put your phone down. Where am I lacking? What am I doing wrong? What could I be doing better? A lot of people don't. I never realized that until like us. No, people don't like that, man. Like people don't like that.
That's the first thing that people get hung up on, though. That's the first thing that people get hung up on is being able to self-evaluate. Like at some part of that, you got to be okay with being wrong. You know, and that right there is where evolution is born. You know, evolution cannot happen unless first you can admit, I need some evolving. There needs to be some more of me that needs to grow. And that is where we get stuck, especially if you achieve success in something. Like you found that honey hole, boy, I ain't moving. I'm building the house right here. I ain't going nowhere. And I dare one of you trying to come and take it from me. You protect that, right? And the thing about it is it's got to be more. Yeah, that's that one honey hole. But there's so much more when you're open to finding out more about yourself, experiencing
honest with yourself.
And that starts with being honest with yourself.
That honesty, man, because it's like that's one thing you don't realize it, because we think honesty, we think like we're consciously just lying to ourselves. It's not. It's real subtle. You know what I'm saying? You don't realize it. You don't realize it that you're pointing the finger, but it's really you. You know, you don't realize that you're the common denominator in every ill thing that happens in your life. Who the hell wants to sit there and realize that? You know,
not if you've been successful. It's working. It's working.
You feel me? Like I'm good. You know, I ain't got nobody around me anymore, but I'm good.
Yeah, it can't
be
me.
Money though.
I got money.
You know, yeah.
And that's false. I think that's huge, even for our listeners to pay attention while you're listening to this podcast. Make sure you're paying attention to yourself, because obviously when we have these conversations, we're letting you in to what we're working on or what we're going through or what we've realized. And it's the same thing I want you guys to do, because even just listening to you guys talk now, I'm realizing that if you're talking about energy in a bar, right, there's no way for you to grow and to learn more if you keep draining yourself in the same things that you're doing. You know what I mean? So as much as people say, oh yeah, I want to go buy some new houses and I want to go learn about cryptocurrency. If you don't have any more energy at the end of that day because you've been wasting all of it earlier, there's no time to even do that. Even if you want to, mentally you're drained. So being able to evolve, like you said, is key to understand yourself and being self-aware of where you need to make the adjustments. I love that.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings up our first question. And I want to break this down a little bit. The question is, are you old? Now, when you first say that, look, I'll throw my age out there. Look, I'm 33, man. I know I make it look real good, but it is what it is. But the question is, are you old? And when you say that, you think of just a number. Oh, yeah, you are 30, you're 40, or whatever the case may be. But really, when you look at the definition of old, it truly breaks it down as belonging to the past, the former, and the previous. Because the way that I look at it is, if you're not doing something right now, it's already old. It's already in the past. So if we're having a conversation and you're telling me all of the success that you had back in 2020, hey, look, that's great, but that's not 2022. Or, hey, I did great in 2021. That's great, but shoot, honestly, that was last year. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times we live in our past, even our past successes, and we want that to show our character,
define us.
Define us now. You know what I mean? But like, well, no, I can't do that because 5 years ago, this is what I did. But look, you probably ain't nothing close to that in the last 5 years prior to that. You know what I'm saying? Or after that. So I asked this question, are you old? Because it's really just having the mindset of, hey, I'm in the right now. And what I did yesterday is yesterday. Because honestly, I'm focusing on the future. Break it down for me, JoJo. What you think? Are you old?
Man, am I old? Like I said, y'all know me. I try to be as real with myself as I possibly can. I don't like living in the past. I rarely talk about old shit, almost to a fault to where I forget things I did. You know what I'm saying?
You made it to the league. You
exactly. But the same, I remember, look, so quick story. My agent called me like, I want to say like six months ago, my old agent from when I was playing. And he was like, just reminding me of all these things I did and all these things I accomplished. And I was like, yo, I'm really that dude. Type, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was really that dude. But it was like I forgot about it and I wasn't really thinking about it because I don't really like dwell in the past like that. But on the flip side, it was good to hear. And it kind of reminded me who I was, especially if I was in a rut at the time. So it kind of reminded me who I was. But it was like, okay, I was that dude. I know what I'm capable of. Let's move forward. But it's like, it's that transition. People kind of get stuck. I remember who I was and I used to, and I can, but they don't use that as like a tool to keep them pushing, you know? Right. So yeah, you know, like I don't dwell in the past. I don't let that define me. My day defines me. I'm right here in the now. Yeah, man, I don't get caught up in all that.
I love it. What about you, Mook? Talk to me. What you think about the question?
Are you old? So the first thing that comes up in my head when you say, are you old, is I think about what was passed down from me or to me from my parents, you know, just from my upbringing and the ways of thinking, right? And the lessons that I was taught. And like, also thinking about the things that I needed to evolve from. Like maybe that was true at one point, you know, and it made a lot of sense, but now in today's world isn't really relevant, you know? And I think that when you say, are you old, a lot of times this is the way it is. This is back to what we just talked about. This is the way it was. And this is how we found success. So this is what you need to follow. You know, this is what this was the blueprint. Follow that, you know, and that blueprint is evolving though. Like that target is moving forever. So are you old? I like to say that, yes, there are a lot of old characteristics about me. You know, there are a lot of things like you listen to my playlist, boy. I was listening
you got oldies
in here. I didn't even go front. I was listening to No Ceilings mixtape still right before I was on this.
That was fire.
Like and it was just like I heard it for the first time. I'm like, so I'm very old in that regard, and I need to evolve. But it's funny because I also found myself, you know, even questioning my parents. And you know, I know that's a build taboo thing. You should never question your parents, right? You should never do that. But I think that thought process is old. I think that you know that you can't question things is old to me. You know, and that's right there is where we need to evolve from.
I love that. Sure. I love it. And you know what else I was just thinking about as well is like we are the age where we've seen the old tendencies from our parents. And then for some of us that have kids, we've also evolved where we play video games. We're doing coding. We're playing all this tech things, but we also have old ways. So I think our generation is awesome because we understand the old generation, but we also understand the young generation. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And I think this is why it's so important for us to be constantly evolving because it's easy for us to kind of stay in the old ways because we've seen both. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But we just talked about it. There's still the tug of war, right?
Yeah,
especially from a technology standpoint. Like, do I
balance.
want to engulf them in that, you know, so they are ready for the evolution that's about to take place? Or do I want to pull them away from that? Be like, no, I still need you to be outside playing with the flowers, rolling around in the trees or whatnot, because that's what worked for me. You know what I'm saying? And that's what set us apart, you know, and we're not. Again, I can't answer that question.
Well, like we said, man, one thing about change is that's the one true constant. That's the one true thing. It's gonna happen.
It's always going to happen.
Time is going to pass. Like either you get with it or you get lost. So you need to be a part of it, and like we said, shape them and prepare them for this evolution, or we fight it with our old tendencies. You know what I'm saying? And like I told you guys earlier, that's my struggle. I'm fighting my old tendencies, being a helicopter dad, trying to protect them from the world.
Yeah.
On the same token, it's like, damn, am I doing them a disservice and not preparing them for this?
Right.
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? And not facilitating it a little more. But as a parent, you can attest to this too, Mook. Things start to get harder and harder. When you got to tap into these different realms and kind of, it just gets tough. It adds more to your plate. It's a lot. You already have a lot that you have to do as a parent. Like, damn, now I gotta figure out this whole tech scene to protect her, but at the same time, make sure she's growing it. So it's a lot.
It feels like you're given some rope to be like, oh, go ahead and explore. But the minute you turn on the TV, you'll see all kinds of crazy stories, and you sense danger, and you pull back in, all because of technology. And again, that's where the balance is. I feel you, man. Like trying to be.
I'm out here deleting YouTube. I'm like, no YouTube. but then it's like,
just today,
you know what I'm saying?
Today I had a YouTube episode where I looked up some history, and I'm like, but you're in kindergarten.
You
and now they can talk to the remote, though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You can talk to the remote and explain it. So you don't have to know how to spell things. Like, you don't have to do nothing. Technology has now said, I heard this somewhere, so let me say this in the remote, and it'll pop up.
Sometimes I wonder if they did it for them or for us. Did they add that? Come on, bro.
You're right. Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question.
Hey, because we about to go out to
Oh, I like that. Because you don't know. You don't know. Easy access.
But that's
something
we got to evolve, man.
I saw a quote today. I was doing a whole bunch of quotes today, but something that I think I'm really going to hold on to for long term is the quote is really, it's win, WIN, and they break it up as what's important now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think the more that you think about that, the more mind blowing it is, because it keeps you focused on now and the future. You know what I mean? Like, if you've played football, and Mook, you were the man in Utah playing sports, everyone knew who you were. You know what I mean? And that's something that you can try to ride that wave forever. And people do it all the time. You know what I mean? But if you keep that kind of quote win, how do I consistently win? And I think you do that by making sure you know what's important right now. That can go into your scheduling your day. That can go into your priorities. That can go into your goals. Like, what's important right now? You know what I mean? And I think that can just help keep you a level head. But I'm a firm believer of always preparing for the future as well. So
sure,
it goes back and forth. But yeah, I agree with you guys on the old part. I think it's a battle, but we have to make sure that we challenge ourselves to make sure that we're continuing to stay with the times, because it's constantly moving. Mm-hmm. But the hard part is, like, how do you know when you see things? I used different companies in the beginning, and we talked about MySpace for some of our listeners. I don't know if you guys are too young, but for MySpace, it did everything. It even low-key had you coding, because you had to do the backgrounds and do music, and you were in tech at 10. You know what I mean? Didn't even know it. But how you know when too much is too much, or when things are starting to change around you? Because I think it's easy to tell somebody, like, hey, we need to evolve and be innovative thinking and thinkers. But how do you pay attention to your surroundings when you really do need to change?
I think it's two parts, right? One, it's easy right now to get caught up in look what they're doing, look what's going on over here, because we just have so much access. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get to see what Mook's doing in real time, or what I think he's doing, or what I think that person doing, or that perfect life, or this new tech, or this hot new whatever. I think it's easy to get caught up in that, but I think it goes back to what we said earlier, as far as just sitting down, being self-aware, because it's not cookie cutter for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That evolution is your evolution. I might need to take my ass out to the woods and damn hunter gather for a year. That might be what I need to evolve.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be the same for what Mook wants. It's not going to be the same what Walt wants. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I try not to get caught up with the things going on around me and try to keep it central, you know, and really focus on me, because you know, we have our flaws, and I'm big on like fixing this. You know, one of my flaws growing up was like I always played down to my competition. You know what I'm saying? Like I was always afraid to put myself out there and be the person I was, and everybody knew I was. You know what I'm saying? I'm paying attention to this, and this. I can't even focus on my own real issue. So that was my real issue. And I think once we get caught up in everything else going on, we kind of lose sight of that, you know. So I think just being grounded, being self-aware, that's how you are aware of what's going on around you. Does that make sense?
Hell yeah. I like that a lot. What about you, Mook?
So being aware of the energy around you, you know, and being able to, well, I'm sorry. Let me take a step back a second. So I'm actually thinking about, you know, a chapter again in that book that we're talking about, that 50 book, Hustle Harder, Smarter. He talks about a biblical story about King Belshazzar, who basically saw the writing on the wall. And if y'all don't know the story, go look it up. It's a biblical story, whatever. But how the writing is never truly on the wall. However, if you're able to tap into that energy, as Jojo mentioned, through self-reflection and understanding, you know, where you're headed, you can tell when things are off. You can tell the shift of the focus on where you need to, you know, focus your efforts. So I think that the more you're able to hone in on that energy and understand that when things have served their purpose, they've served that, whether it be good or bad. You know, you have to let things go. You have to let them go, and you have to make sure that I understand what they meant to my life. Let me take that and let me move forward with every bit of the good and the bad. So especially like for me, it was, and we all know, we've all been through this. So for me, again, college football is something that football in general, that's what you know, that's what you've done. You've physically in your head set a future for that, you know, to take care of your family, all the way down to the moment that you can hug your parents when you get called on at the draft day. Like everybody has that image. When football gets taken away from you, it's ripped away. It's not here. Let's ride this. I mean, luckily for Tom Brady, it was let's ride this sunshine out. You know, but
red carpet.
But you know, for me, it got taken abruptly and in the middle of trying to become a man. So I feel like my evolution has been something that was just had to happen right away, because I no longer what I used to get instant gratification off of being the man in Utah, being able to play football. That shit was gone. It was just like that, you know. And I had to move on. You had to move on and realize that sure, that's who you were, but who are you going to be?
That's
who are you
key.
going to be? You know,
that's
if that's all that you want to amount to, this whole journey ain't even been worth it. And it was never. Who were again? Let me stop because
I'm with you. Go ahead.
But I'm like, as far as you know, I don't know what you guys are at spiritually, right? But I'm huge on everything happens for a reason. Hell yeah, that shit hurt, Mook. I'm right there with you. No matter where we were at in our journeys, the shit hurts the same, you know. And I'm sure you feel the same. But it's like I had to. One realization I had, when when I'm sitting down meditating and praying, it's like that needed to happen for me, for the evolution of JoJo. That had to happen. One thing I remember my dad would always tell us as kids, man, like sometimes you don't realize why things happen till 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line, 10 years down the road. You know, you're like, damn, okay, I see, God, I hear you. That's why it happened the way it happened. I needed to grow. Maybe football was my crutch. Maybe them cheering for me was a crutch. Maybe I was using, or maybe it was blinding me to see the real issues I had, or blinding me from reaching my full potential. Yeah. Maybe my full potential wasn't in football. You know what I'm saying? Maybe my full potential is what I'm doing now. Maybe I haven't even found it yet. Maybe I'm on, but I know I'm on the right path, you know?
Yeah, and maybe football gave you the keys that you needed to get to where you need to be at.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm all the way with you, and I think that a lot of times when we're paying attention to the things that are happening around us, is it gets to a point where you feel that you're feeling getting stagnant. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
or you're relying on something, one thing to say who you are. You know what I'm saying? That you're looking for the satisfaction of one thing, and I think that's when you have to make the adjustments. And we always talk about it all the time, but being self-aware. I think as we grow, I know for myself, I look around at my flaws or stuff that I do, and I'm like, I know I want to be better than this. So what do I need to do differently? Hey, maybe I need to be a little bit more sensitive in my relationship. Maybe I need to communicate better with my friends. And I think that if you surround yourself around the right people that tell you how they feel, you'll see where you need to change. Like, and I'll throw it out there, man. Me and Mook is my best friend, and he helps me be a better man, right? And I'm not afraid to say that to him or to anybody, right? And we've gotten into a relationship where if I don't do something right and it shakes or rattles him a little bit, he'll voice his opinion. You know what I mean? And if he didn't do that, I wouldn't know where I need to change, right? I wouldn't know that I need to communicate more to my friends. It's not just like, hey, as a man, you need to communicate to your wife or your girlfriend or your mom and your dad. Maybe you need to communicate to your real dogs that's with you. You know what I mean? So you're not just picking and choosing who you're communicating with, but you're communicating full circle. Even the people that you don't want around you, you communicate to them that I can't kick it with you, or my actions
Mm-hmm.
are communicating it for you. You know what I mean? So I love this question is because it's never on the writing is never on the wall. You just have to have the right people around you and be paying attention. Go ahead.
Real quick before you move on, man. That's a muscle that you have to consistently exercise as far as being able to intake feedback, though.
Yeah.
That's something that I feel like it's something that everybody really has to address within themselves. Understanding who's around me and what is their intent. Is their intent to hurt me? Because if their
Yeah.
intent's not to hurt me, I need to soak in that information and understand that, sure, that's a perspective. It doesn't have to be my truth. That's a perspective of somebody who truly cares about me. You know what I'm saying? And that first starts back to all that we're saying with being able to truly self-evaluate and tell yourself the truth. Just tell yourself the truth, because most of us know we know the truth about ourselves, but we don't
We
want to
know.
believe it, and then have somebody else say it. We gonna be really upset. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that right there is back to. I mean, I know you said your piece about me being that person to you, but I can only be that person to you if you allow me. You know what
Right.
and that comes from you taking that feedback and be like, you know what, I see that, and here's my plan to move forward.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
It gotta go both. It's gotta go both ways. And that kind of goes to the next question, really. And we've talked about being aware of your surroundings. We've talked about having the mindset of staying in the present. But the next thing is talking about actually refusing to evolve. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times I think, especially for us men, we know where we need to change or we know where we need to evolve, but it's actually doing the work and saying out loud, like, hey, this is what I struggle with. This is where I need to be better at. You know what I mean? So give me you guys' thoughts on like how do you
I'll
evolve?
volunteer right now.
Yeah,
I'll
all right, talk to
volunteer
me,
right
bro.
now. Yo, my biggest struggle right now again is the concept of no new friends. Man, like
Oh,
I
let's
have
change it.
grown
Yeah.
up in the sense of no, you keep your circle tight and you keep it tight as hell. You don't let nobody in that. Your boys are your boys. They got to be down because there's too many snakes in the grass. All this other things, and there's a lot of valid points when you start to dig deeper. Sure,
Mhm.
you should be able to evaluate people a lot better, but that does not mean that you don't need new friends, because evolution comes from new experiences. That
Oh,
comes from being around new people. That comes from going to dinner places I would never go to dinner and get invited, from new people that I would never, with eating new food, I would never try, or traveling new places I would never go because I met a friend that used to live in Israel and they have connections. Like, that's where the evolution comes from. But for me, I know for a fact I got about 4 people that I talk to on a daily basis. And you ask anybody outside of those 4 people, it's hard to get in touch with me, even through communication, or sorry, not communication, through text message or whatever it may be. I just rely on those 4 people, but I pour into them. And I know for me, it's going to take opening up, you know what I'm saying? And being vulnerable enough to people that I feel like I can be vulnerable, but that sounds like a feat in itself. You know what I'm saying?
That's hard.
That's where the uncomfortable thing is for me. That's where the new friends thing comes from. Is like, my circle is my circle, but I know that expansion, evolution, feeling in touch with the world comes from going to see new things, experience new people.
Yeah,
that's what it is. Perspective, right? Every new experience, it's like, okay, I can see the world better because I went this place and I went that place. Man, you just gain that perspective. So I feel you,
bro. Or hey, that's the way you thought about that, because I didn't even think about it that way. I had no idea, and that all comes from the culture that you got brought up in versus the culture that I got brought up in. Oh, you were that is where you feel a little intimidated too. Oh, you feel intimidated about going to that neighborhood? Well, shit, I feel intimidated to go into that school. You know what I'm saying? Because there was nobody that looked like me. So damn, that level of intimidation is still there for both parties. Like, I didn't understand that. And truly, that's when you find out that we're more alike than the same. And I've experienced that many different times, but still it's hard for me. It's hard for me to be like, let's meet new people.
This is tough, man.
This is a good question because me just thinking about it, like, I used to believe that for me to have like a good friend, we had to have gone through something together. You know what I mean? Or
football makes you think like that too.
You used to think like that?
No, see, football. But go ahead, my bad.
Oh, yeah. Or we've had to, or I grew up with you. You know what I mean? Like, I know you. I know your character a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But for honestly, as an adult, I would think like, oh yeah, you didn't play football with me or nothing. Like, I don't know if I trust you like that. You know what I'm saying?
You didn't get it out the mud with me.
You didn't get it out the mud because I'll never forget, man. It was me and Mook. It was 2 days of football and we was getting our ankles taped. And I was like, look, I know we got a scholarship and all, but I don't know if
this might not be it, man.
This might not be it. I didn't sign up for this. You know what I mean? 2 days was not fun at all. But it's those like small moments of things that we've gone through that we were together with. And you're right. I think it comes from football, from sports. So as an adult, man, it's hard for me to have like new friends. Like, you know what I mean? And I think I'm doing better, but that's still my mentality.
But the question is, what's your criteria though? You know what I'm saying? That's what I ask myself is like, if that was the criteria back then, how is somebody going to fit that criteria now? Because what, are you going to put yourself in harm's way to see who's going to ride for you?
Right. Hell no.
That's the equivalent to what you're looking for. And that's just, that in itself, that's when you should evaluate somebody like, I can't keep you around me.
Right.
If you're ready to go let me do that dumb shit.
But the crazy part about it is we talk about trauma mindset and we talk about just African-American culture sometimes is like, I need to know you're going to be down for me. So if I do some stupid shit, are you going to like be with me to do some stupid shit? And now we best friends now because we both doing some dumb shit. You know what I mean? But hell no. I'll tell you, I'm not doing shit.
Here.
Nah.
See, I don't know. I'm like the opposite, man. Like, cause I'm a super social dude, man. Like, like it's not easy for me to make new friends. I have more. I put myself in a space where I have more opportunity. I don't trust you out the gate, like you guys said. I don't trust you. Like, like a little bit about me is like I went to 4 colleges, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Like I met so many people, and I was surrounded by I had so many crazy experiences. Like my freshman year in college, I had a roommate from Japan. My other roommate was from Saudi. My other roommate was from Kuwait, and I had my 16-year-old roommate from Nigeria. and then my homeboy from Ogden that came up to school with me. And when I say I gained some perspective that I never had in my life, bro, at 18, like I'm like, yo, like I've been living this way my whole life, and I meet these dudes with all these stories. And I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is dope. And as you go on through life and have these different experiences, it makes it easier to filter through who you need around you and who you don't. And what I mean by that is like you can tell, you build this intuition like, yo, his energy isn't right. We'll finish out the day, but I'll probably never see you again. You know what I'm saying? Like one thing for me that I pay attention to is when shit hits the fan, if I don't hear enough I statements, then I'm not messing with you anymore. And what I mean by I statements is like, I should have done this, or I messed up here. I should have done this better. Like earlier with you, when we were giving you input, Walt, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this. I should take care of this. I should do this better. That for me is a sign of somebody with mad integrity and somebody I want around me. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're not accountable, if you're not self-aware, because that's some self-awareness from you. I know, okay, you're right. No ego. I can do this. You know what I'm saying? I'll knock this out, or I'll do this better. That's something I pay attention to with people. Is the second I see you be like, man, because of that, and if it wasn't for this, it's like, you know what? Nah, bro. You know, it's love. We'll finish out the night. Like, we can have a couple more drinks, but I'll never see you again, though.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's all love, but I you know, because we meet, so because it's the same for y'all. We play ball. We've been everywhere. We on state to state. You know, we've been everywhere. Met so many dope people, and it's like I'm gonna have more opportunities to meet dope people. I'm gonna sit here and play with you.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And it's love though. It's
always love.
It's love, but it's like, you know, you're in a different space. I'm around. I want to be around straight integrity. I want to be around good energy. I want to be around people because when I care about people, I care about people, man. Like,
yeah, me too.
I genuinely want y'all to win, but like, but I want that in return. Like you said,
that part, bro.
Smoke speaks life into you. You speak life into Mook. We speak life into each other. That's what I want. I gotta know when I'm not in the space. You know what I'm saying? You guys are speaking right about me or saying, yo, let's, you know. So that's that. That's one of my telltales. If you don't have enough I statements and you're not accountable, and you can tell real quick.
Yeah, that's true.
I keep it pushing.
You know, it's crazy. Go ahead, Mook. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, bro, because one thing that also shows is that I acknowledge that you have feelings too. What I did hurt you, and you're speaking. So yeah, let me self-reflect, and that right there, that opens me up to know that now I can pour into you. I can listen to you. We can open up that avenue of you giving me constructive feedback, and I can trust your intent now. I can trust it because you trusted me with mine, and you reflected and realized. Back to my point. I'm not gonna go on a tangent this time, but again, back to what I just referred to.
You can feel it though. It's something you can feel. That energy is real. You can feel it. Like, yo, this is a solid ass human being.
Yeah.
Like this is a solid person. Yeah, they might have flaws. It ain't gonna be perfect. They ain't gonna do shit that's like, oh, that's wild. But it's like that integrity though. That's hard. That's hard to come by, man. Like that's hard to come by. Somebody that's just, they are who they are. They're gonna stand by what they say, and they're gonna own their shit, you know.
Real quick, we didn't gave you a whole bunch of compliments, but you are ugly and you have no hang time. So let me just throw that out there real quick. Because there was a lot of good things said there, and I can't have him walking away from this conversation with too many good comments.
Look, I know you know how to do it. I know you can like post an image in here. I feel like
yeah, you can. I'm not doing it.
Bro, he just had his hair braided, and I'm gonna try to find a way to post it up on the King's Hour page.
Oh, you can. I'm not telling you how to do it.
Real talk, how bad was your head hurting, bro? Because right now I'm seeing the lymph. I know black people's hair, it stretch, it goes back down, but it's not that much shrinkage in life, bro.
No. Listen, let me show you. Look, my hair is kind of long. Like you
had a headache.
Every one of us has had braids here, so we know what it's like. You couldn't move your hair for like 3 days.
My head is tight as hell, but I even got a taper on the back, so that's why the hang time is not there, because I had my fro and I got the taper in the back.
She couldn't connect. She couldn't get her fingers in there. She's like, you want to line this up.
And I got meat in the back. You know what I mean? I don't know if y'all can see it, but I got the meat in the back. So it's not a flat surface. So she did the
I used
thing.
to sit behind you in class, man. I used to stare at that piece of meat like,
what is that?
bro.
I don't know. I don't know what
like,
the hell it is,
there?
but it ain't going nowhere. You know, JoJo, man, we're gonna move on a little bit, but even for the listeners to know is that like me and JoJo, we didn't go to college or go to school together or anything like that. I've only seen him on a couple occasions. And we've really gotten close really from doing this podcast. Like minds think alike, obviously. And ever since I've been in the circle with JoJo, I always was obviously I need to get to know him a little bit and stuff like that, but it was never a question of his integrity and who he wanted to be. You know what I mean? So when we talk about having difficulties finding friends, it's not really difficult when they have the same mindset and they want to thrive to better themselves and the people around them. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you being you. You know what I mean? Yeah, I love it, man. So I think Kings, we got to make sure we always commend our Kings when we see fit and not be ashamed of it at all. So I will never not tell my Kings that I love them, and I will never I won't be afraid to tell you that I don't when I don't like something. You know what I mean? And that's the type of relationship that I want to make sure that we always have and we always bring. So no new friends unless they're thriving to make you better with them. You feel me? I love it, man. So we're gonna shift gears a little bit. And that's literally the topic is knowing when to shift. So we've talked about no new friends. We've talked about being aware of the now. We've talked about so many different things. But in the moment, we talked about the writing on the wall. When, and I want to give me an example because this doesn't need to be that long. When in your life have you come up to a situation where you knew, okay, it's time to shift gears? It's the same thing as kind of being self-aware of around your surroundings. But I think being real strategic on when you need to shift. Give me an example if you guys have one.
For me, I get negative. I start talking shit. I find the worst in everyone around me. I pinpoint like, that's why we doing it this way. That don't make sense. This, it's like jobs, right? If I'm in a job and I'm like, yo, it's about time I get up out of here. I start doing things like that. I start just noticing all the bad about it. Like it hasn't been there the whole time I've been working there. You know what I'm saying? Or like it hasn't been in that situation. So for me, it's always I start to get real negative and I can feel it in my spirit. This ain't me. You know what I'm saying? So it's time to get grounded. I always remember that scene from y'all ever see After Earth with Will Smith and his son, Jaden Smith?
Oh,
I watched it, but I don't remember it.
It's a hella trash movie, right?
But I don't think I've seen it actually.
He has this thing that he does with Jaden Smith where he's like take a knee, and he tells him like to get grounded, right? Like you need to sit there and focus and like reconnect, right? And that's sometimes what I do. Like I'll sit there and like, all right, man, like what's up with you, bro? Give myself a little pep talk. All right, it's time to bust a move because this ain't for you. You're already in this space. It's time to shift. It's time to do something different, And that's, we talked about it off tape. That's kind of, where I've been. It's like, all right, it's time to make a shift because my mind and my spirit isn't in it anymore.
Not there. Yeah.
Not there.
And
I can spend all this time fighting, trying to get back to where I was, fighting evolution or fighting change. Or I can let go and literally let God, as cliche as it sounds, and go the direction he's pushing me to go.
I love that. I love that.
I mean, on the heels of that, man, for me, you kind of just led right into it. So meditation has been that thing for me, first and foremost, being mindful of my thoughts, putting myself in a meditative state, but then being aware of where my thoughts take me. Like JoJo said, then filtering down to, am I constantly thinking about that thing? And is that thing negative? Is that making withdrawals or deposits in my life? Right. And once that evaluation has happened, the moves, but for me, that's one thing that I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I make moves abruptly, like done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I'm
out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's like thinking about relationships, thinking about business, like business relationships that I have with people. If I know that, you're not cutting it. You're not the type that is going to get the job done with me. I love you, but like you, Jojo, like you said, I only have certain energy I have throughout each day that I can give. I can't consume a lot of this, and I have to move. I have to keep going. And a lot of that, a theme about what I'm saying is a lot of it's been energy, me feeling energy and understanding, are you giving me life or are you sucking it out of me? Because I have to give that to other people here. I got people that I'm responsible for. And they need every bit of me. Every bit of me. And they need the best part of me. You know what I'm saying? Like back to what you said, if I only got those 3 bars and all day that all I've been taking in is negativity and those 3 bars are nothing but negative shit, the fuck does it matter if I give that to them? I'm making them worse off. And then we're talking about Black trauma. They were talking about a whole bunch of other issues instead of me giving the best part of me to them. You know what I'm saying? So long story short, starting from this start,
energy.
It's all about energy for me, man. Evaluating and first being in a meditative state to understand how to decipher where that energy is going.
So real quick on what you were just saying, I was listening to a podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to Social Proof, but that's a podcast, a little business / life podcast, right? And one of the hosts, she was like, if you're half-assing it, or if you're not willing to make change, then go in a room and wake your baby up and look your son in the face or your daughter in the face and tell them, hey, I'm half-assing it. I'm not giving you my all today. I'm not doing everything I can do for you today. Just to let you know. All right, go back to sleep.
Right.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It was something like that's kind of how she said it. But I sat there, I almost pulled my car over. Like, damn, bro.
Ooh.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm really letting things suck the life out of me, and I'm not giving the people that literally are depending on me everything they need. You know what I'm saying? Like everything they need. Yes, I got to take care of my needs. But like they give me fuel, they give me energy, they give me that drive, because that's my why, and I'm sure that's the same for you, Mook, and Walt. When you have kids, you'll be able to be like, okay, this makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll do everything I can do. But if you're gonna stay in this negative space or avoid this change or fight evolution, then pick your baby up or go grab your wife or go grab your girl. Be like, hey, you know what? I'm a half-ass it today for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm choosing not to give it my all today.
Yeah.
That's knowing that you're going to grunt that. You're going to grunt the decisions that I made, all because I chose to give my energy somewhere else. Somewhere else that was not serving me or you a purpose. And that's where the evaluation comes. If that doesn't trigger something in you, knowing that the energy is bigger than me, it's about who I'm giving it to and who am I interacting with, because that's something that's felt with everybody, regardless of your children. Like that's where your legacy is. People are going to talk about the energy that you gave them, the inspiration that you gave them based on what you have to give. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just a layup for us that we miss.
And if you ain't got nothing to give, you know what I'm saying? You just out here.
You just out
here, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So another key for me is like I try not to get like stressed over anything, because I feel like things always work out, right? But when I start to get overwhelmed with things, that's my point where I'm like, okay, I gotta start adjusting and moving shit around, because I don't like feeling overwhelmed. And when I get overwhelmed, and like you, Jojo, I'm outgoing, talkative, friendly, but when I'm overwhelmed and then you want me to get you a glass of water, I don't have to. I'm snapping. You know what I mean?
What I'm hearing is when you're overwhelmed, you're irritable.
I'm irritable. I'm hot.
But here's a question. Though: is it you fighting your ceiling or your growth or your comfort zone, or is it really like this is too much for me, or I need to change? Because that's where I always get caught up. It's like, do I need to sit in this? Do I need to ride this out so I can grow my ceiling? Or is it really like truly, is this just not it?
So that's a hold on, let me answer that. That's a great question. And it's growth. For me, it's growth. Because when I'm not prepared for something, I get overwhelmed, because I hate doing things last minute You know what I mean? So if I don't have time to have flow and have it naturally come out, I'll get overwhelmed because now I'm trying to force something. You know what I mean? So it's a growing moment for me to be like, hey, if this situation was preventing me to do it, or I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to do the research or whatever, then I'll be like, you know what, Walt, you need to start researching on your stuff ahead of time. You need to have a whole game plan in front of you. So I look at it as a growing moment, a growing opportunity to be like, hey, you just kind of going with the flow and making shit happen. You have too much to do that now. Now you have to be strategic in how you do things. Because if you don't, it's going to be a wrap.
Yeah.
That's real. That's real. And real quick, what I was going to say is I think it's situational in the same vein that
real
you
thin
talked
line,
about.
right?
Yeah, there's a real thin line because sure, a lot of it is growth. But again, back to that self-evaluation process, you got to think back like, first of all, remove yourself from that situation so you can think in a calm space. That's
Right.
number one. And that's what I've realized. Trayvon Murphy, that's what you have to do. Because you're not going to go, you're going ones and twos with whatever you think you're battling with in that moment. That's not you fighting. That's just rage. So take yourself away from that. Really evaluate, okay, why am I overwhelmed? And is on the other side of me being overwhelmed, is there growth? Because sometimes you take in and you consume a lot of shit that overwhelms you that ain't your weight to carry. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So
Very
sometimes
true.
if that ain't your weight to carry, shit,
Keep the
no,
hell
I
off
can't
me.
have this. No, you ask me for a cup. I've been seeing you sit there the whole day. You asking for some water, get your ass hold up because I'm in here grinding.
Like,
You know,
I'm
it's
irritable.
just a whole
You thirsty?
Right, that's true.
yeah, it's just a bunch of evaluations. There is, like I said, there's a thin line. But if on the other side of that overwhelming nature of whatever's being thrown at you, is there growth? Can you find a path through that? Well, let's just keep going. Let's just keep moving.
That's one thing I did. So the one of my past jobs, that was one of my main things. I had to really sit down and be like, okay, am I not willing to grow into this position that put me in? Or I had to sit back and be like, okay, what's this career path looking like for me? Like, is there room for me to grow it? Does it make sense for me to ride this out? Like, I had to really map it out, reverse engineer, start at the end. That's where I want to be. How am I going to get there? Nah, this shit ain't going to work. This shit ain't going to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, does that, for me, does that king version of you have this capability? You know what I'm saying? And it's been like, back to your example, Walter, you had a crazy day. There's a lot that's been thrown at you. You get asked the question, I need to be cool, calm, and collected. So where I can go with, no, I've been working my ass off all day to snap. How much effort is it going to take for me to get my ass up and get a cup of water?
It's just a test.
It's just a test.
You know what I'm saying? And that king version of me needs to be that servant first. So there's growth on the other side of that.
I like that.
Hey, there's one thing I've been doing lately. I don't mean we'd hang on this forever. One thing I've been doing lately since I've been stressed at work is like I've been on some like, okay, let's see if you can come home, not talk about work, and do everything you got to do for your family and your kids. Like, let's kick that shit aside. Don't complain. Come home, take the load off. Do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Because like another thing, I play this game in my head of everything's just a test. I literally say that to myself all day. It's just a test. It's just a test. Like, you got this. It's just a test. You wouldn't have it if you couldn't do it.
You can handle it. Yeah.
They praying for a lighter load. I'm praying for a stronger back. You know what
I'm saying? Check that out. You can never do that shit if you didn't have self-integrity. If you didn't give a fuck about if you made the test or if you passed the test or not,
right?
What the hell would it matter if you tested?
It wouldn't matter.
Yourself?
And that's where you got to get to where you actually care, right? To where you actually like, do I genuinely care about my growth, right? And that goes to what we were talking about earlier, right? Like, people stop growing at like that age 25. Like, I've met people that are the same as when we were in college today. Like, I'm 35.
That's
and
I
got dudes I've really been rocking with, 15, 20 years, and they are the same as people.
That's
what I'm saying? Like, I like you, that person, but that can't be fun to like, you know what I'm saying? To not want to just be just not want to grow, not want to read more, not want to be,
Yeah.
you know, that self, like
to know more.
To know
Bro,
more. Like my biggest fear is to know less, or to not know more than I did last year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To not grow. Like I want to just grow and grow and grow. I want to learn 10 languages. I want to, you know what I'm saying? Like
for all my listeners, an easy way to evaluate this is think about the people that you talk to every day. If you've been having the same conversation that you've been having for the last 5 years, and your conversation topics haven't evolved, it might be time to change. It might be time to move, because
it might be time to change, and it might be time to sit down and reflect, because it could be you.
Ooh, I don't know if it's
yeah.
That's a king. That's a king's action. You know what I mean? If you want to be a king, that's what you got to do. You got to reflect not only on the people around you, but on yourself, and see if you're challenging yourself on what you guys are talking about.
Because how trash would that be if you're the one that people are trying to cut off? Sheesh, that's tough, man.
Right.
And you're not even aware of yourself, let alone aware of what's going on around you.
What's going on? You don't even realize it. Yeah, hey, that's huge. I was even looking at it too. I think I sent it to you guys about on what you follow on Instagram. You know what I mean? Like when you go on your phone, because we're on our phone all the time, and the FaceTime, the screen time is increasing all the time for majority of people. But what we're putting in our face is huge, because a lot of times if you're on your phone on Instagram and you're really looking on some business stuff and trying to educate yourself, and on YouTube, like it's not that bad. But if you are looking to see what Cardi B's new outfit was all the damn time, or what Chris Brown
gets stuck, right?
is, like you get stuck there.
Yeah,
it's
a lot of people there too,
for sure.
Can I give you one stone analogy that I had while I was in the shower? I was sitting in the shower, right? And I'm like, it's crazy, because it's almost like you're a pitcher of water and you're a spout, right? And everything that you focus on, that you give your attention to, without knowing, you're taking in that water, because life is just an evolution of water, of energy. So you're looking at those things, you're taking in, even like the articles that you read. If it's a negative connotation, like some part of you, you're taking in that water. You're taking in that water, and that water is acidic, versus you taking in and focusing on some positive stuff that's really going to build your picture and stay there. And the thing about it is, your picture is slowly draining, but not as fast as you're consuming. You know what I'm saying? So it's draining, but you're consuming a lot. And the more of that negative shit you consume, it becomes acidic, and it fucks up all that positive shit in there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I was stoned in the shower, just like, oh my God, my water fountain. Let me focus on something. You know, like back to the channels and everything that I see. I need it to be positive, informative, and forward moving.
It's like, for me, it's funny you said it, because for me, it's always been a backpack. That's always been my metaphor. Like I'm gonna load up on silly shit that's gonna weigh me down, or am I gonna unload, you know what I'm saying, and get this off me and really just live my life? Like, I don't want to hear that you putting all this on my back. Like, you putting this stuff. I'm trying to carry the world, and you adding extra shit. Extra shit. You know, like stuff that I don't care for. I'm trying to grow. Like, when I tell y'all think I'm playing. Like, not growing is a fear for me, bro. Like, not growing is like a fear for me.
Like, thinking about fears that we can have. I think I was gonna say, thinking about fears that you can have. I would like that to be yours. I would prefer that to be yours. You know?
Literally being the same person I was. Like, I get so much, not like pleasure, but it's dope to me to talk to people like from like 10, 15 years ago. I'm like, damn, like you're an entirely different person. Yeah. And I'm like, it was intentional. You know what I'm saying? It was intentional. Like, I tried to, this was what I wanted. And I'm still, but wait, there's more, you know? I'm still going. I like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still going.
That. And that's the type of energy that we want to make sure that we build here on King's Hour. We're coming out to the hour, but what I want to leave you with, and give it to me quick, man. We've talked about things that we've done, but really an action item that I want to give to the listeners and to ourselves. Where do you need to make a change for your personal evolution? And what does that first step look like? We talk about what you need to do, but really putting into action, what are you going to do to change it? So start with you, Mook. Give me something quick. We're gonna continue this conversation, even on our social media platforms, to make sure we're getting to the listeners. But give me a little bit. What's something that